Welcome to the Grit Grow Rise podcast. I am so excited to welcome Emma.
I'm so happy to be here.
Was at Venice Beach and was energetically pulled into a store, and she was there. We started having a conversation and it led to this feeling like she was soul sister. So
Yeah.
yeah, here we are today, a couple weeks
So crazy.
later. I love when things like that happen, when it's just organic, not any sort of force. It was just like very natural, and we went into deep topics really quick. Emma has been on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual alchemy, shedding skins. What did that journey look like?
My journey is a bit not obscure, but I feel like I've definitely had a very unique life experience so far. I'm 21 and I am about to graduate college. I think that's the most interesting thing, and that's been like a theme for me recently. Things that, seem simple having a lot more to them. It's like a theme of like my life story is just like feeling there was just so much more to me, or like feeling very there's just so much more beneath the surface that like goes into like this like idea of who I am, or anything. There's so much beyond what is presented in front of us, like a lot of times in life. And a lot of the times you have to project a lot more in order to get through hard experiences, like project more and believe that there is more to an experience and like extend beyond like what is presented to you. So yeah, I think for me, like the whole idea of like shedding skins, and recently I feel like I've been sort of like reframing it, is coming back into like my light and like remembering who I am, embracing it. Because it's like I think our soul comes into this physical body and knows exactly what it wants to do, and then we forget, and experiences come and they condition us, and we get confused. And when we get confused, a lot of the times what we do is we look to others, or we look to our reality, and then we copy that, conform, and we become the version of ourselves that we think we need to be. But yeah, I think that shedding skins for me really has been kind of this like finding of truth of who I am. And it's interesting because this has shifted. I think my perspective will always kind of change on things this of, okay, well, what is it about? Really, like, what is this experience like about? And it's about expanding and flowing with it. But yeah, I think death, rebirth, and transformation is like a huge thing for me. If you know about astrology, I have so many planets in the eighth house. I'm a Scorpio rising. My thing is death, rebirth, and transformation. It really is like a portal. Like, I think everything in front of us is going to get us to where we want to be and need to be. And it's all the key if we follow it. Life is this cool, fun path. Once you realize it, it's like a little treasure hunt, and finding more and more like light. Like the depth to which you experience pain is the depth to which you experience light on the other side of that. Like with alchemy, and just deepening your experience. For me, I had a relatively like normal life up until middle school. So my dad passed away. That was 3.5 years ago. Say, just like, a lot of the times when we're in our reality, like, yeah, I'm spiritual, but there's just like so much more to it. My dad struggled with alcoholism, and so he wasn't in my life after like sixth grade. We were very like close when he was in my life. I looked up to him. I mean, I feel like little girl does. Like, he's the greatest man on earth. That point in my life, I describe it not like my soul leaving my body. We talked about this too, like when we met, about calling all of your parts of your soul back into yourself. Because when trauma happens, I see us as a ball of light. As we grow up, we have experiences like, the life experience will hit that part of your light, and it either allows it to grow, it either plants showers on it or shines on it. And some parts of ourselves get to see the light all the time, and they get to like really grow and develop really beautifully. But then there's also parts of ourselves that it gets hit and we cover it up, and it never gets to develop, and it never gets to see the light, or it's just in the darkness. So it's like a very multifaceted experience. And in sixth grade was a very like potent time where my family split. It very much became this world upside down, death, like everything changed for me, and I was shell shocked. Really, really hid myself and protected myself at that point on. You kind of just take experiences as they are when you're a kid. You don't really question it. You're kind of just like, this happened, or this is this. Compare, but it's also novel and new that you intake it and you compare it to where you are, and you make these assumptions about reality, and then you carry it with you. I carried these distortions. I feel like we're all comfortable within our distortions until we're not. And until we have a certain realization of them, we can acknowledge them and give them love and allow the light to come in, or we can further cover them up. That's where a lot of further pain can come, cycles that you really are not supposed to be in. And so the rest of middle school, high school, I lived a fairly relatively normal life, except for I took on a lot of responsibility. I'm the youngest of five. Starting high school, I started working at 15 and taking on a job, while a lot of other people in my high school were having normal experiences and going home, and their parents were picking them up, and my mom, and luckily, like, I was very, very lucky to have my grandma move in with us, and she was amazing, and basically like, took on like the role that like my dad would have played, like picking us up from school and like taking me to like softball practice and things like that. So she was like very present. That like really made me feel very different from people. And I didn't know why. And I was like, ah, like, this is how my life is. Like my dad is this way. He's not in my life. My mom is this way. Growing up in this turbulent childhood, you kind of just accept it. And when people ask, what does your dad do? Being like, oh, I don't know, going into that imaginary mindset and pretending like things are okay. That's where masking sort of starts for young girls who experience trauma. No, everything's okay. Everything's totally fine. We all embody it differently. There are some people who are very honest about it, and you can definitely tell they might struggle or they might get into certain things when they experience trauma. But I was the type of person that was like, I want to protect myself, so I want to make sure that nothing appears wrong on the outside, and nothing feels wrong on the inside. So I'm just going to block everything away. Everything's all good. I'm just gonna make everyone laugh, and I'm just gonna be hardworking. I'm gonna, do good in school. I'm gonna be different than he was or is. I'm gonna do this and this and this. That's where this sort of story, and that's what it is. It's all a story that kind of started. And then my freshman year of college, I was very happy. I got into UCLA, which was a really big deal for me. I've always kind of been this underdog. And I feel like that is a story, because I think that we become the chosen one when we choose ourselves. It was a very unexpected thing because I was never the type of person to shine really brightly academically or anything like that. But there was so much that people didn't know, that I was working a job in high school and I was doing these other things, and it's all under the surface. And then I go to college. I think I'm gonna have a totally normal experience. I'm like, yes, freshman year, like I'm meeting all of these people, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have this happen and this happen, and I'm envisioning all of these things for myself. And I want to say maybe 3 months into my college experience, my grandpa passed away. So my mom's dad, and that was kind of expected. It was interesting because it was the first time where I didn't really feel anything. I felt like I was supposed to feel something, but I couldn't feel anything. I definitely thought that was odd, and it was like, okay, well, what do you do when you're supposed to feel? And so it was more of an intellectual understanding of death. Or of course, I had real emotions and did definitely grieve in my own way, the best I knew how. But looking back, when I say my soul left my body, I wasn't present within my experiences. Like it always felt like it was happening to someone else. And so with the situation with my dad, he would try and call me here and there, but I really didn't have any attachment to him because honestly, I didn't remember him in my life because it was like completely gone from my memory. So he like would call me here and there, but I was kind of just intellectualizing it. I didn't answer his phone calls and emails and things. None of it made sense to me. Like really none of it did. And then about 2 months after my grandpa passed, I suddenly got a call very out of the blue that my dad had passed away. And that hit me like a truck. I'm a Cancer sun, so I'm supposed to be very emotional, and it was kind of a joke between my best friend and I. We were both Cancers. We were like, we never cry. But no, I had this experience and it woke me up. When you ask about my spiritual awakening, I guess I could definitely pinpoint it to this point of completely opening up. And I had to explain to my friends, like, my dad passed away, and they were like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, thanks, I guess. Like, I don't even know. He wasn't in my life. He did bad things, but also he was my dad. Like, it hurts. And then I started remembering who I was as a child and remembering that connection I felt to him. And I was literally like, this sucks. So it was very just like an emotionally complex situation. I mean, every situation is emotionally complex, but I think that this one was very layered. The way that things inspired after he passed was very typical. There was like, difficulties with inheritance in the funeral, and I had to show up and portray myself this certain way that was not correct, and completely ignoring the real story of what happened. It was very like complicated, but I look back on like my freshman year, I like just have now like so much like gratitude, and I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, like I had no idea. Like I had no idea what would happen. That was it's like a special moment of in my life of like just becoming myself, because it really was this moment of like remembering who I am. I was always pretty intuitive. I would have these random things where like I would say something and it would immediately happen in my group, and I didn't know anyone that was having these experiences besides me, and nobody really talked about it. And then if it was talked about, it was like joked up, like you're a psychic, you're actually intuitive. When my grandpa passed and then my dad passed, it especially since I didn't have a physical relationship with my dad, I think that it really made me want to connect to something greater, and connect with him in a way that was real, because he's not here, and I didn't get to say anything or do anything. I started having like I had had like dreams come true before, but it was things where it was the universe was revealing itself to me. I took it and ran with it because it was needed at the time. I think that like it became an escape thing for me at first. I think it was the only way that I could make sense of what was happening. All of this chaos and all of these situations happening, whenever people would ask about it or whenever something would happen, I would be, okay, well, what's the thing that would make this okay? Is if it was happening for a reason. I think that that really became something that I didn't expect to become real. It was a concept that slowly started to become reality. And I think that's how things go, is it's like if you're wondering whether something is delusional or not, and if it's delusional or real, it's delusion until you make it real. That grieving process really did start something for me. It was really hard because I couldn't go out or like do anything normal. Like my friends were going and like going on their first dates and like going and doing these things and going out and like having fun, having these little problems that they would come to me with is like, oh my God, like this guy and blah blah blah. And of course I would, feel for that, but I felt like so like out of place. I was like, how do I even do anything like with what's happening in my life? How do I do this? And so, especially too with school and classes and everything, I definitely cared about what I was learning, but there's much more here. I just can't, you know what I mean? It's like there's real life happening in front of me. That's what like I started to do, was like put my experience first. It like really like became that. And the summer after my freshman year, I was able to spend a lot of time home because I moved away from like Long Beach where like I grew up. And my friends were there, and I got like a serving job, like, and it was in Laguna Beach. So many spiritual things there, and that energy there is just so potent and beautiful and charged. They say it's part of Lumeria. It was a beautiful experience. I actually had my official like spiritual awakening because I was like curious because of all these things, and I was having these coincidences, and like even my dad would come to me in my dreams, and it would like kind of like play out in an interesting way like the next day. Yeah, and then it was funny, like the bartender was actually ended up being really spiritual, and there was like a couple people there who had actually died and come back to life, like my coworkers. And just talking with them, I just started attracting spiritual experiences, and they just started coming to me. And I read the book The Celestine Prophecy, which the bartender recommended to me, and it blew my mind. We were talking about that in the store. It was the first thing that I had ever had where someone was explaining my experiences, and it made sense. It was like, no, this is it. This is what I've been missing. Somebody else is seeing this. Somebody else is experiencing this. It was amazing. Like if I could read any book for the first time again, it would be that, because it talked a lot about coincidences and following this path and just following the breadcrumbs and, letting that all unfold and finding your truth and coming back into yourself and remembering who we are as souls, as spiritual beings, having a physical experience. Once I went in, I went all in. It felt more real than anything I had ever experienced, anything in my life that had felt like it happened to someone else, this was happening to me, and so this felt more aligned than like anything. Then with the death process, my grandma actually got pretty sick that summer too, and she ended up passing away January of my sophomore year. So that was like another boom, like the universe doesn't want me to have a normal college experience, which that's something that like I came to terms with. Like I am not going to have like a typical experience, but I'm going to have my experience, and I'm going to make it like the best that like I possibly can, and I'm going to use this for like in any way that I can, because it just all felt like it was for a reason. Like it was always for a reason. If anybody asked me like, or said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're experiencing these things," I would always say like, No, it's all happening for a reason, because it was. I would have these dreams and these experiences and these synchronicities and these crazy moments of like literally the universe being like, here I am, like, here I am, and that connecting moment. And finally, it felt like I was chosen, but it really was because I started to believe in myself. It actually helped when my dad passed away, like, remembering how he viewed me as a kid, that reminded me of a part of myself that I had completely locked away, of this loving, just a little girl who wants to be here and be loved and experience love and make people feel good and feel seen and heard. I feel like that opened a lot up for me. It was this, how do I get to know every single part of this? I just started studying spirituality like nobody's business, and I started just researching and immersing myself in it and putting myself in any situation that I could possible to get to know more of this, because I need to do this. Like, I really, like, this is what I'm meant to be here for. I just know it. Those experiences that cause so much pain, they really did deepen my experience so much more, because I can say that all of the time that I spent feeling heavy, all of this pain, this confusion, the uncertainty, all of these questions that were arising, I started to look into like what the answer could be, and it was answered by the universe, and like through me just like allowing myself to find out. And I get to say that like every happy experience that I have now and every like meaningful connection that I have is as potent as those deep ones that I've had, those painful ones, it's just depth. It's all just adding like depth. When it comes to transformation and shedding skins, it's about taking the situation in front of you and recognizing that it's there for a reason and for your own expansion, and allowing it all to unfold and being present with it and just living your life, because that's all you really need to do is have this human experience.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Everything you were saying, it was beautifully said, and I resonate and relate to so much of your story. Birth, death, and rebirth have been a huge part of my process too. Have you looked at your Chiron or your Lilith?
Yeah.
Okay.
My Chiron is in Capricorn in the third house, and then my Lilith is in Taurus conjunct my moon in the seventh house. But yeah.
And then you talked about the eighth house. My Chiron's in Cancer in the eighth house, which is like mother wound. I remember you talking that day in the shop about emotions being a key that unlocks these hidden treasures. Lilith, it's like the dark side of the moon, our shadow self, those parts that you talked about that we hide away. And when we're first born, we're our most authentic self before life happens. And everyone's been through something, even if not everyone has experienced the death of a family member. We all have gone through something in childhood that is teaching us wisdom. It's giving us a chance to alchemize that. And that was super in alignment with what I'm passionate about too, is doing my own shadow work and uncovering these hidden treasures through feeling my emotions. Like you said too, sometimes we block ourselves off from the pain. And when we do that, we numb out to the beautiful emotions too. When we do open ourselves up to feeling it all, I definitely resonate too with how you talked about like the more pain you feel, there's a beautiful experience on the opposite side of that spectrum. And when
Yeah.
we really do open, we get to experience it all and alchemize it all and know that, okay, this low is leading me to another high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. Something was coming through about feeling the need to protect yourself as a kid. If your dad wasn't present, the father archetype is the protector of the family. And then you're the youngest too. I'm curious if there's anything coming up around that where you felt you had to overcompensate to protect yourself, or how did that show up with if you got into a relationship with a man, or how you viewed men? Like, how did that play out?
Yeah, definitely. Like, father wound is something that I'm definitely been exploring like recently. As my experience goes on, I see it in different ways. I see things like manifest in a lot of different areas that you don't even realize. I have felt like overcompensated in a lot of ways, like people pleasing or just putting on this role or this mask. I think for sure is related to that, because the father is like the one that's supposed to encourage you and all of these things, and you are enough just as you are, and the mother is also a part of that. But I think that the father, especially the way that my dad's energy was, he thought I was the most capable. I would rule the world one day. When that energy disappeared in my life, that was a gap, and I felt the need to fill it by protecting that or doing these things. When it came to men, I just avoided them like altogether. I kind of just automatically removed that as part of like my experience. Like it was not going to happen for me. Like with relationships, anytime a man talked to me, I just assumed that it was never going to happen or they were going to hurt me. Never really had like any experiences with like men throughout like middle school or high school because I think I was just like I didn't even realize like I was so afraid of them or I thought that they were like going to judge me, especially like around men. I noticed that like I have had like a tendency to be skeptical. I've always been the friend that whenever any of my girlfriends introduce their boyfriend, I'm always like, mm-mm. I'm always the first to be like, nope, you deserve better, which is like, I think something that I'm really grateful for because I do think that I was spared from a lot of experiences that objectively weren't aligned with me and that wouldn't have served me. And being so young and so valuable, I'm really glad that I did spend a lot of time with myself, even if it was like a protection mechanism. It definitely was for a reason because I've become hyper independent and I'm learning that's like part of my journey now, I think, is softening and like learning to accept love, especially he was such a loving presence in my life and then having that disappear. I thought that it would never come back again, or like if it were to be in my life, if I were to feel love for someone, or if someone were to love me, it was going to end up in chaos, or they were going to hurt me, or I would have to owe them something, or like they were going to, like it was just going to end up and it was going to be this fraudulent thing or something like that. Like that was something that like I definitely like closed myself off to, but you know, closing like protecting yourself also means closing yourself off to like love and stuff like that. So but I think I was very fortunate to have always attracted like the absolute best group of women in my life. Like growing up, like my best friend in high school, like she's also a Cancer and we've been so aligned and we were always like-minded and her father actually also passed. So we just always felt we were experiencing the same thing, like through women talking in my life and me just like talking about these things that I felt like I was the only one that I was experiencing them. It made me feel like I didn't have to be as independent or pretend like nothing was happening because it was like, no, a lot of people actually are experiencing this in some similar way. But yeah, I think that when it comes to relationships, it definitely made me either hyper independent or codependent. Because I felt like I had experienced like a lot of pain through my life. I felt a responsibility to protect like myself and others. Like I think in my life, like I've always been like a very protective friend, but that's like not my job, you know? My job is to be here and to have reciprocal like dynamics with people and relationships and like and especially like with a man like just allowing them to appreciate me and view me just for my being, not for by me doing anything or becoming something else or transforming into another version of myself, but just by me having my energy and being my Emma, literally just by me existing. Because things really are that easy. That's something that came from having to work so hard because of this absence of being provided for. I thought I had to work for every single thing in my life, including love. I thought I had to earn it from people by showing them this is the way that I'm going to be here for you and hoping and praying that they would show up for me in the same way, but never really feeling like it was ever authentic or actually receiving that because it wasn't true. Because, you know, I think Source knows, you know, in your soul that all you have to do is exist and you are exactly the version of you that you need to be loved and like to magnetize like anything you want. Like it's all ready for you and like it actually like wants to come to you, you know? And like but it's like the real you, not the version of you that you built in order to escape the situation that, you know, you were in. So that's like something that like is a big theme in my life, is just being like all it took was me like stopping the control and surrendering deeper into my experience and like just figuring out what it is that feels authentic to me. So, yeah.
What a beautiful gift that your dad was able to view you in that way, that you were so capable. I could see how that could be difficult for him to then struggle with alcoholism. With my mom, she was addicted to pain medicine my whole life and escaping in her own way. She had eating disorders and different things. And she would tell me how much she loved me and how much she believed in me. But even though she was there most of my life, she was checked out. emotionally and sleeping a lot or taking pills or in treatment centers. When that happens as kids, sometimes we internalize it. Like, why am I not good enough for them to want to play with me? Or why am I not good enough for them to see me for me? Acknowledging that they're experiencing their own pain and that's why they're struggling with some sort of addiction is they're
Right.
trying to escape that pain in their own way. They're trying to numb out that pain. When you can get to a point too where you're like, okay, my dad's alcoholism wasn't because I wasn't good enough. And like I didn't have to prove my worth to him. Maybe I was actually like so worthy and he saw how worthy I was. It's almost like our parents sometimes don't feel good enough to be our parents. And I'm saying that like as a parent too, because I have three kids and my older two are in Las Vegas and in 2022, so it was around the time your dad passed, went through a divorce with their dad and I was having a lot of inner child stuff come up and I allowed that to like uh consume me in a way. I needed to like a way to go heal because I didn't want my kids to experience childhood like I did. I really wanted them to have a mom who was able to deal with her emotions and who wasn't so blocked off or drinking or taking pills. And so I took the time to be like, okay, I'm gonna leave and go heal. With the death of my mom, I got to see from this new perspective of how much I wish my mom would have taken time to just go heal instead of me suffering my whole life watching her suffer because
Right.
like I would do more. I was the straight A student in school because I just wanted to prove my worth to my parents. That wasn't even what like they were fine if I got B's and C's. They didn't care, but it was me just pushing myself like, no, I have to do this to prove my worth and prove I'm good enough. And then
Right.
my dad was a pastor too, so there was like that layer of perfectionism you shared about feeling like sometimes you couldn't be real with people and just being like, yeah, it's fine. Like my sister and I would joke, we're like, it's fine, everything's fine. But at home, it's like all hell breaking loose. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, society just as a whole, I feel like a lot of us are afraid to share when things are chaotic or when it feels like hell because we don't want to be judged. We want to be seen as capable, worthy, and good enough. It's so powerful when you do get to a place where it's like, it doesn't matter what I'm experiencing right now, like I am still worthy of love, I'm still worthy of protection. I'm still worthy of making my dreams my reality, even if my outside reality is not reflecting it now. Using our wounds of wherever we feel we have to prove our worth. How can I love those parts of me that feel unworthy of love? That's the key that helps us feel that wholeness. It's not anything outside of us. It's learning that for ourselves. Like, no, I am worthy of loving myself and accepting myself, even if I mess up and make mistakes, or even if I feel I've made a wrong turn somewhere in my life, or even if my parent passes away, I can still give this love to myself. I can still be the parent that I wish I had as a kid and really start to remother and refather ourselves back into wholeness, especially as adults. Because, yeah, that role that they played as a child, I can't expect, like, even my dad, he's still here, but I had to like cut him off for now because painful things were happening where he wasn't who I needed him to be when I was a kid. And I can't expect him to be that for me now. I need to learn to be that for myself. And yeah, just giving myself the love and protection that I needed.
Absolutely. I can also relate to that because the way that your mother was with being absent and just asleep or not there, that's how my mom was and is in her addiction and stuff. Exactly how you were saying, like you internalize that. I really did. And I think that I became like the thing that would like try and like be like, okay, well, if I am just like good enough or if I am like spiritual enough or if I come to a certain like level, then she will stop. Then like she will stop and she can finally like see that like she needs to get sober and like I would be like the thing that was like holding her down. It can become hard with spirituality too. Sometimes it can lean into an unhealthy obsession with bettering yourself. You can't hate yourself into being better. You have to love yourself into being better. In order to have more, you have to have gratitude for what you have. Recently, I've just come to this understanding of I don't have to be 100% healed. I don't. Like I can be me. I can still have all of these unhealed father wounds and I can have these things that I haven't even explored within myself and my ego or whatever. but that's okay. I don't have to heal them and like force them to and get rid of them. Like I can acknowledge them and I can just like give them space. And even if I don't like it, that's okay. Like I'm still me despite that. And like I can still do the best that I can with what I have. And that means that like I don't have to change it and I don't have to like escape and I don't have to like become someone's like, anything. Just as I am now, I'm ready for whatever's here now. If I'm so focused on escaping my current circumstances within myself, like emotionally or even my physical reality, if my main focus is escaping it, it's really, really hard for you to actually ground new things into your reality because, like, it's unfertile soil. When you actually just remember who you are, that's why it's important to come back to yourself a lot of the times. And on these journeys of transformation, remember how far you've come. The goal of it in the first place is it's self love and it's for you. And all of these things have been for you, even the parts of ourselves that don't make sense. Even how hard they seem or unfavorable, they really are. The crazy thing is it's just actually surrendering in that trust. I'm a very intellectual person. I try to control my circumstances with spirituality sometimes, being like, well, if I aligned this higher mind and I meditate long enough, then, when I come back to this, it won't be there. But that's not always the case. That sort of mental alchemy, if you intellectualize things, it can give you a lot of really great tools, but it's really hard to actually use them if you don't surrender and accept that I don't have to control this. It's okay. I can lean into this uncertainty. You don't have to conjure up the meaning from something automatically. You can just let it, you can allow it. Um, yeah, and I think that that's also a reminder that we're alive, leaning into the uncertainty because our soul plan is still unfolding. When you get to those moments where you're like, I don't know why this is happening, that's a direct reminder that you're on the right path, I think. Like you came into this physical body to have this experience, and that's your reminder. This physical experience, as much as you want to manifest your way out of it and meditate your way out of it. That's my recent thing is allowing myself to be physical, like just be me, and have this physical experience and just enjoy it because I think that when you don't have this childhood or when you haven't allowed yourself to enjoy your experience because you've been so and focused on escaping it, like that's like a really hard thing to do. That's one of the hardest things to do is just like allow yourself, give yourself permission. If I had that thing, what would it give me permission to do? How would it give me permission to feel? And what would it give me permission to like be, I guess. Like, so, yeah.
We're on the same wavelength. When I was sitting for a couple minutes before a call, I'm like, what wants to come through today? And it was like slowing down, doing less, just being, being
Yeah.
who you are. I love that you touched on spirituality, how that can almost become an escape, because that 100% is what happened to me at times where I would be like, I need to pull more cards on this, or I need to get another deck, or I need to journal about it more, or I need to do another plant medicine journey. The present moment is the gift when you really can just be present. Even just being here in Southern California, I'm 2 blocks from the beach. I'm just like, even though I don't know much of the future from here, it's just being here now, getting outside and smelling the air. Oh my God, I get to smell the sea and feel the wind. Today we went walking on the beach and picking up shells. My husband actually found such a cool shell.
Oh
Have you
my
heard of
God.
it? I think it was a wavy turban or something, but it definitely like had Lemurian vibes too. And
Yeah.
on the spiritual journey too, being at a point where we can connect to like past lives or our inner child, and then also being able to be here in our body. That's what I'm super passionate about. It's like creating a day where it's showing up like everything is a ceremony or a celebration or a ritual. Making a cup of coffee can be a ritual and a spiritual practice, or like breathing, literally just like breathing or taking a shower or being a mom can be
Yeah, no, totally.
using where you are in the moment. And it doesn't have to be going out and buying crystals or making it like a big deal. It could literally just be you just doing what you are passionate about and following your heart's desire in that moment. Where am I being pulled to today? Where am I being led to? And letting the map unfold as we just step more into like being, just pausing and seeing what wants to come through and not overthinking it, like you were saying, getting so caught up in conceptualizing it and thinking about it to then where we almost start trying to manipulate future outcomes and then creating choices from that instead of leading more from the heart. I feel like Lemuria, that's what I really get a lot of energy from, is leading from the heart. lights you up, what makes you feel most alive, and how do you feel most yourself, and embodying that more instead of
Yeah.
have to do this checklist or do more or whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. For sure.
This is August. I think you met him in the story.
Yes, yeah. I do remember meeting him in the story.
Yeah, he is helping me remember to like, slow down sometimes and that things mostly aren't going to go as I planned. I thought he was going to nap this whole podcast and it's just rolling with it too, you know? So,
Right. I love that.
I did want to come back to you. You mentioned how when you were a kid, you felt like your dad saw how you shined and how he believed that you could do anything, like you were capable of anything. I'm curious, do you remember your inner child? Or how did you imagine your life being when you were a kid? Where are you feeling it up to explore more of in the present?
I love that question because I'm shedding the layers, this the snake skin thing. But I've been remembering her recently a little bit more. I literally just have these memories of bringing light into unconventional moments. That's something that I've seen throughout myself. She's peeked through a couple of times in my life in random moments where I'll see that light shine through in this space. Like I want to call it, I mean, because life really is a womb. When there's potential, we can feel it. Especially for me, I've always kind of felt where there can be more light in things. I have this memory, like we were members of a country club. There was this men's only place, and only men were allowed in this after a certain time of day. One day, I was like, I just want to get a hug from my dad or something, or I want a root beer. I walked in, and like I think my dad was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Everyone ran up to me, and they were laughing and all just like smiling. A very like unconventional moment. Like, here I am, you know. I would just give people a certain look and it would just move them a certain way. He always loved my like my eyes and some moments. If I drop into what I think it really is me dropping into myself. He gave me permission to know that. If it wasn't him that was like, "Oh, you have the most beautiful eyes in the world," you know, I probably wouldn't have looked in them. They would just be my eyes. But because he said that, I had this idea that if I just looked at someone a certain way and if I gave them a certain energy, I would get whatever I wanted. I would get my root beer, whatever. I could get a candy bar, things like that. In my present reality, when I fully take ownership of my experience, when I come in and empower myself, sometimes it does mean looking life in the eyes. That is like something that I like came to recently. When we're so in our head and we're so like in our experience, like we're not really like looking at things, if that makes sense. Like make eye contact with people. Like just kind of like sometimes like we're like avoidant and we don't like if we're like socially anxious, like we'll kind of escape to like our mind or like be like, oh my God, like yeah. But if you're making eye contact with someone and you're relaxed and you're just allowing the energy to flow, you'll find that you had nothing to be afraid of. And I think that's what that kind of means, looking life in the eyes, is looking at your experience, making eye contact with it, being like, hello, I acknowledge you, and having a conversation with it, feeling into it. That's a full eye contact power thing, knowing that when you're present, you can make anything happen. It doesn't mean that you're always going to get exactly what you want, but knowing that I have control. I'm here. I'm here. When I'm making eye contact, it's me making eye contact. I'm here. When I was a kid, there wasn't anything specific. I really wanted to be a famous softball player. Like I wanted to be like the best pitcher in the world, but that was more so like what he wanted for me. I really liked the idea of like of being something special or like being someone special, having this special gift and like, you know, being kind of like praised for like, you know, being different. And that was something that I like lost. Like when he wasn't there, like I was like, I'm not special. That's not something that I can achieve. But I think that we are all special. It was that inner knowing that I'm not any better than you, like because you're amazing too. Like we're all like amazing. Like we all, the light shines on every single one of us and we all have this inner child. We all have these experiences. That's exactly like what I really like feel connected to in this life, is like leaning into that with like every experience, like whoever like I'm interacting with, like we share an experience like in some way and like connecting with that like deeper, because there's in everything is the gift. There's so much. I feel like that's very like Scorpio rising of me to want to explore the depth of things or connect beyond the surface. The most fulfilling moments in my life have come with sitting with an experience and watching it transform, watching it deepen and open up and bloom. Like I think like with friendships, getting to know people, seeing different sides of them, like, you know, interacting with them, like learning new things about myself, but by the way that like I, oh, wow, like I didn't really know that about myself, like because they they maybe like, triggered something within me. And then I'm thinking like, you know what? Like this is actually feeling more authentic. Like thank you to that person. Like, and I think that we're all like mirrors for each other. And it's because like we're all alike in the way that we're unique expressions of the universe, and we're all like that light and that we're all special. My inner child knew that about herself, that she had this light and she could make people feel loved and she just loved to hug people and like and things like that. And I feel like that's like my very like nurturing aspect of myself in my life. There's a lot of things that I see myself doing and who knows like where I'll end up being, but I know that like I like love like helping people come into themselves and helping people remember that like deep part of themselves and like also normalize it because I think that like as people, I think we talked about this, how we felt like aliens our whole life. These things are normal. These like past life experiences might seem pretty out there, but at the end of the day, like I'm having that experience and then I'm coming back into my experience and like operating as a human. They're both correct. They're both part of my experience. Just like normalizing these things. There's no greater like joy that I felt when like someone's been like comes to me and is like, "Oh my gosh, like what do you think 222 means?" And I'm like, "Welcome." Like it's just makes me so happy because it's helping people believe in themselves because it's like that's a sign for you, like that's so awesome. Like you get to understand yourself better and there's no greater gift than that because that's something that like I can't give you. Nobody can give you the gift of understanding yourself and being able to help yourself and get yourself on that journey. There's certain things that we're born with, but there's certain things that we really do come into. When you start this journey of understanding yourself, it gives you the tools for the rest of your life. You can't unlearn these things. I don't want anyone to become me. I just want to help people with the tools that I've gained in my life and working through all of these unique experiences and unconventional things and normalize it. I don't know why we don't talk about these deeper parts of ourselves more often and more open. I think that's why it's so amazing that you're doing things like this and just having people feel more comfortable. In girls my age in college, like I'm sure there's like more people out there who are having these experiences and going deep in their spiritual experience, at an unconventional age or during college or late in their life or wherever they are. It's that part that connects us all and we can all help each other.
When you talked about when you're little wanting to be or do something special, I feel like you are excelling at that. Both the days when I was drawn into the store, it wasn't until after we actually had a conversation that I was like, okay, it makes sense. I was meant to have that conversation with Emma. And just the conversation that we had, I remember feeling so safe to be myself. We both were able to go so deep so quick. You said, your energy feels familiar, and I felt the same about you. Yeah. You made me feel this urge to share or explore my gifts more. When I was like, but can I like channel light language to
Oh,
you?
I love that. Yeah, no, and it was so amazing. Like I benefited so much from it.
Yeah, you being you emits this frequency. Your gifts are so deep, and multidimensional, and unique, and powerful. Hold on one second. He's not having it right now. What is it? What do you mean? What? You want to say hi to Emma? Look. Look.
Hi, hi, August.
What was coming through is the gifts that you have are not textbook. You can't go take a course on how to be Emma, and your frequency, it literally draws people to you who are meant to connect with you. What was also coming through was mantra is I'm always at the right place at the right time. And it's like I don't need to map out everything and have it all figured out. Just me showing up and being me and going where I'm drawn to go, you're going to magnetize people who are meant to connect with you. And whatever happened that day in the store, it unlocked this confidence in me in like, okay, I can believe in myself. And what you're sharing too is like you want other people to believe in themselves, believe in their gifts. And in that, it's also showing you you can believe in yourself and your gifts and that you are really special and powerful in such a cosmic way. And you're doing it in a very grounded way too, where you're not like way up. Because sometimes with spirituality, we talked about how we can be so focused on outside of us or other dimensions and realms. And it's like, we're here now for a reason. And why did I come here? And it's remembering, why am I here? Who am I? Why am I here? It's remembering, it's peeling back these layers. Okay, That's not why I'm here. That doesn't feel like it. So what is it now? Peeling away what's not us and the lessons we've already learned to uncover and unveil more of who we actually are. It's knowing it's not one size fits all. Each of us are our own unique blueprint and frequency and imprint that we're here. This big disco ball with all these different pieces of broken glass, but together we shine brighter and we're like whole. And even within us as well, we have all these different parts that are meant to be expressed in their own way at their own time, and we don't always have to be the good girl or the nice girl or the one following the rules, like the men's only club. You're allowed to break the rules, you're allowed to make your own rules, you're allowed to create a life that feels like a fuck yes to you. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. We don't need anyone else's permission. You came here to be you. You came here to do what you wanted to do. And it's just remembering that more and more and clarifying that more and more and amplifying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. That makes me so happy to hear that. That's amazing confirmation. It's like, I love that you felt more confident in yourself, and you made me feel so much more confident too, especially since that like light language was so powerful. I felt it with like every cell of my being, like truly. I remember we were talking about how you were nervous about it, or you were, that state is so familiar to me because that's something I'm hesitant to share these things when I don't feel like they're ready, or like when I don't feel like I'm ready, or like I'm not fully prepared, or like oh, I'm not a master at like light language yet, or like oh I haven't mastered my channeling, so I'm not gonna try, or oh I don't know what every tarot card, you know what I mean, or whatever it is, or I'm not the best at it, so I'm not gonna show it. But yours was so powerful and it was so pure and it was so impactful. Everything that unfolded the days after too, it was like an activation. It just made me feel so much more confident and comfortable. That's exactly what you said. Like I trust that whatever is like coming through and like whatever stage I'm at, like this is like the best stage. I'm not gonna doubt myself, like because the universe clearly isn't doubting me. I gotta get over myself a little bit and like allow myself to be a little uncomfortable in order to like really, because it was so healing. Like it was literally so amazing. So I'm so glad that you like felt comfortable sharing that.
Thank you. With you doing Reiki too, I feel like that's so in alignment. Your energy is healing and activating to people too. With you even having to make a sound, you just being in your presence, it activates people, it magnetizes people, alchemizes them without even being able to conceptualize it or put it to words. And that's so powerful. You said you do Reiki sessions. Is that correct? Is that
Yes.
something you currently offer? Okay. Do you
Yeah.
just do in person? Do you do virtual as well? If someone is feeling the resonance, how can they connect with you?
Like my business is like under construction. I'm like just now like I feel like getting this like big call to like put myself out there and like offer services, because for that exact same reason I feel like you're close enough, like I could do in person. Yeah, I'm moving to San Diego in the fall, so ideally I would love to do in person there. I do offer distance Reiki. I do like 30-minute sessions, 60-minute sessions. If you're in San Diego, I do nails too, so I have a nails and Reiki option. I do intuitive guidance with whatever modality I feel called for, tarot or just intuitively reading energy, guidance sessions. I'm open to connecting to anyway. I have a booking website. You can email me or like just reach out, and I'm like so happy to connect. I love this spiritual community, and like anytime I meet anybody that's like spiritual and we get to connect like that, it lightens my world up, like, and it fills me up to like no comparison. And I can do it all day, every day. So yeah, I would love to connect with anybody who feels called.
I love that. And what a fun combination too. Getting pampered spiritually and your nails too. We were both talking about how we've been drawn to different places on earth to do Reiki or light language or like different intuitive activations where we don't really know what's going to happen until you get there, right? It's like you're just guided to places doing Reiki or light language. And so for anyone who feels the resonance to that, I know you and I expressed that it would be fun at some point to maybe do a new moon or full moon circle and do it with the intention to help heal the earth. And at the same time, we'll be activating each other and learning from each other as well and going deeper into that self-discovery and alchemy. I wanted to put that out there too for anyone who is listening to this. If you feel excited to be a part of that, that's something that Emma and I have talked about starting is some sort of community like Lemurian Starseed or Lyran Starseed or Reiki meetup, like grid work type thing.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, this was fun. August is at his limit.
Yeah,
Thank you
for
so much
sure.
again for sharing your story too. That was so powerful. I'm so inspired by you, and I'm so proud of you for who you are and stepping more and more into that. It's beautiful to witness.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you. And I'm just so grateful to be on your amazing podcast and for you to hold space for me and other amazing people who are like in a similar experience. And I'm so incredibly grateful. What you're doing is so, so amazing.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you showing up today. So thank you for being down to talk about all the spiritual
Yes,
stuff and
of
the tough
course.
stuff and the fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.